Today's episode is brought to you by the Daily Gardener Friday newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Eadlane, and today is March 8th. Today in garden history, we celebrate the birthday of André Michaux, the French botanist and explorer. He was born on this day, March 8th, in 1746. André grew up on a royal farm in Sattery, south of Versailles. His father trained both he and his brother in horticulture, and after his father died, André carried on at the farm. André married a prosperous farmer's daughter from a nearby farm. She was named Cecile Clay, and a month shy of their first wedding anniversary, Cecile delivered a son, Francois André. Later in life, André would name an oak in his son's honor. Tragically, Cecile died after delivering their son. And for his part, André battled through the next decade by studying horticulture. In 1786, he was asked to go to North America. As a single dad, he brought Francois André, who was then 15 years old, along on the journey. André's mission was to establish a botanical garden in America. And the goal was to set up a botanical clearinghouse of sorts. They would cultivate plants and then send seeds and specimens back to France. And so André established his nursery on the land where the Charleston Area National Airport exists today. In fact, at the Charleston Airport, there is a stunning mural that was installed in 2016, and it honors both André and his son. In one panel, André, Francois, and his father are depicted in the potager or kitchen garden. And the central scene depicts the rice fields along the Ashley River in the Charleston Harbor, where Michaux introduced one of the very first camellia plants. Native to Asia, camellias are small evergreen flowering trees or shrubs, and camellias are in the Thaceae or tea family, which is why camellias are commonly called tea plants. In florography, or the language of flowers, the camellia represents love and loyalty. And if you want a little trick to remember that, just remember that the camellia has 2 L's in it for love and loyalty. Camellia blossoms are beautiful, and they come in various colors, sizes, bloom times, and forms. But perhaps best of all, camellias are long-lived, like the peony, and they can grow for 100 or even 200 years. Finally, here are 2 fun facts about the camellia. In California, Sacramento is named the Camellia City, and the camellia is the state flower of Alabama. And today we also celebrate the birthday of Sir Michael Foster, the English physician and iris breeder. He was born on this day, March 8th, in 1836. Sir Michael is regarded as the father of iris cultivation. In the late 1800s, Michael became the first person to crossbreed new varieties of iris. He started his work with the purple and the yellow iris, and then made a beautiful blend by the 3rd generation. Soon Michael had large wild iris specimens arriving from all over the world. Can you imagine? He found that missionaries were a great help to him. They sent Trojana, Cypriana, and Mesopotamica varieties from the Near East. In time, Michael's iris creations had bigger flowers and they grew taller. He crossed irises in every conceivable way, and he once wrote to a fellow plant breeder this advice: in hybridizing, be bold. Michael once said, "Nature is ever making signs to us. She is ever whispering to us the beginnings of her secrets." And it was on April 26th, in 1970, that Elizabeth Lawrence reflected on the spring. And she reflected on this day, March 8th, in 1970, by writing these words. "This spring, I was asked if I am bored. How can anyone ask that of a gardener? No gardener could ever be bored. Every season is new and different from all those that went before. There is always something new in bloom, something expected and something unexpected, something lost that is found, and there is always disappointment. But being sad is not the same thing as being bored. It acts like spring, but I dare not hope," Carolyn Dorman wrote on St. Valentine's Day. She wrote, "It was about this time in 1899 that the temperature here in northern Louisiana was 20 degrees below. God spare us, daffodils are beginning now, and Magnolia alba superba will soon be in bloom. It is the white form of Magnolia solongiana that Carolyn calls alba superba. She thinks it more beautiful than the Yulon." And here Elizabeth clarified, "In my garden, the Yulon and two of its hybrids come into bloom together on March 8th. I can't think of when, if ever before, all three have bloomed at once, when the weather was warm but not hot, when there was no frost and no rain, and when only a few petals were whipped off by the wind." And of course, here what Elizabeth is talking about is that we seldom have perfect springs when we can enjoy the beautiful spring blossoms, whether it's from the bulbs or from the spring flowering trees and shrubs, because something always happens to shorten that beautiful bloom. So we'll cross our fingers yet again, as all gardeners do, that we just might have the spring of our dreams in 2022. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Private Gardens of Santa Barbara by Margie Grace. This book came out in 2020, and the subtitle is The Art of Outdoor Living. Margie is a two-time named International Landscape Designer of the Year. She has worked in the field for over 3 decades, and she is the perfect host to showcase these magnificent private gardens in Santa Barbara, which is often referred to as the American Riviera. This book features 18 gardens designed by Margie, and it showcases a range of spaces from large estates to surf retreats. This is an elegant coffee table book, a total escape to the lush spaces of Santa Barbara's private gardens. And these gardens are water smart, maintenance smart, and fire smart. So those are 3 aspects that we can all learn from. This book is 256 pages of incredible private California gardens showcased by one of the country's top designers. You can get a copy of Private Gardens of Santa Barbara by Margie Grace and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $28. Finally, we end the show today with a Botanic Spark featuring Joseph Pla. The Spanish journalist and popular author was born on this day, March 8th, in 1847. Joseph's seminal work, The Gray Notebook, was a diary that he wrote in 1918 during the onset of the Spanish flu pandemic. Joseph had been a law student at the University of Barcelona when the pandemic hit, and when the school shut down, he was forced to return home to Palafrugell on the coast of Spain. It was then that Joseph realized he would rather be a writer than a lawyer, and so he kept a journal as a way to improve his writing skills. It was Joseph Pla who once wrote, "Cooking is the landscape in a saucepan." Well, that's it for today's show. Just remember that you have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for listeners of the show. The next time you're over at Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and then request to join. And if you'd like more of The Daily Gardener, you can subscribe to the newsletter over at thedailygardener.org. And don't forget that you can also show your support for the show by using the Buy Me a Coffee link over at the website or in today's show notes. This is Jennifer Ebling. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. Hi there, Daily Gardeners. I just wanted to let you know that I will be speaking at the Friends of the State Botanical Garden of Georgia annual meeting in Athens, Georgia on March 25th at 7 p.m. And there's a reception before this event at 6:30. Anyway, this is their 50th anniversary, and I'll be giving a presentation on some of the women who influenced botanical illustration and who created marvelous botanical porcelain art, which is now truly a dying art. In fact, in the United States, there are no longer any porcelain studios in operation. All of the beam studios have closed. And so these pieces are only going to become more scarce and more precious over time. Now, in Athens, there is a brand new porcelain and decorative arts museum at the Center for Art and Nature, and it's right next to the Visitor Center at the Botanical Garden of Georgia. This porcelain and decorative arts museum houses the collection of Dean Day Sanders, a passionate gardener and art collector with an extensive concentration in botanical porcelain. And so this museum is special because it's the first of its kind to integrate decorative arts in a garden setting to celebrate nature. Now, if you decide that you'd like to be at this event, all you need to do is check today's show notes or the Facebook group, the Daily Gardener Community over at Facebook, or the newsletter, because I'll put links to this event in all of those places. And if you do register, let me know, because it would be fun to have some Daily Gardeners in the audience. I'm going to have a little bit of free time, and it would be great to connect with you. We could tour the gardens together, have a little meet and greet, grab a coffee, etc. Anyway, it would be great to get to see you there. We'll celebrate these wonderful botanical artists, see the beautiful botanical porcelain, and get a chance to hang out. What could be better? So one more time, the meeting is on March 25th on a Friday at 7 p.m. Hope to see you there.